This conference will now be recorded.
Let's kick things off by giving you a short description about School of RPA. We have 4 brands under our belt. First, School of RPA, where we conduct instructor-based online training and offline training on technologies such as UiPath, Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, and and also business analyst trainings. Second, Auto Clouds, where we do where we do RPA projects on with small businesses. Third, One Page Journey, which specialized in content development, blogs, case studies, and white papers around the topic of RPA. Fourth, but not the least, RPA Gayan Guru, which is all about webinars and events on RPA. So this is our core team, Mr. Abhinav Sabharwal, founder and CEO of School of RPA, Meenu Sabar Meenu Sabharwal, HR head, and Dipen Jain, RPA trainer. So now this is time for us to introduce you to two distinguished speakers for tonight. First, Mr. Abhinav Sabharwal, CEO and founder of School of RPA. He'll be taking the topic on becoming RPA Business Analyst. And second speaker for tonight is Mr. Niranjan Ramakrishnan, Group Vice President, Digital, Leixir Dental. He'll be taking topic on emerging trends in RPA. So before starting, I would like to set the ground rules for the webinar. Speaker session is expected to be 30 minutes. There will be 10 minutes Q&A session at the end. Please post your questions in the chat window. If you would like to ask any question at the end, you can type it on chat window. Please message the host. If time permits, there will be a session for you to ask. This session may be recorded for internal use and later publications wherever applicable. If you do not agree for recording this session, please sign off from the event. For, for privacy and other reasons, presentation and recordings will be shared except when approved for publications in the latest. Last but not the least, you may introduce yourself in the chat window, but do not self-promote. So let's begin. Over to you, Abhinav.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you, and good evening, everybody. I'm Abhinav Sabharwal, and I'm a principal consultant and CEO of School of RPA. So today I will be actually talking about one of the topics for which we get a lot of requests, and that is how to become an RPA business analyst. So before we begin, I'll just tell you a little bit about sorry, a little bit about my organization. Now, School of RPA is something that I started almost 3 years ago when I first learned about robotic process automation. And the very first question that came to my mind after learning RPA was how is this documented? How is the project done? Sure. How to do automation with programming, robots, Blue Prism, or UiPath, that was very pretty straightforward. And there was not many doubts about it in my mind. But how does the project is documented? How is it governed? And how is the RPA project executed? That was a bit of a mystery to me. So I set out on a way to learn more about it, and that is how I gained the knowledge. And once I've gained a sufficient amount of knowledge, I thought I must share it with other people. So I started training. Initially, I started training corporates and then individual students as well. So today we'll specifically focusing about being a RPA business analyst. How can one become a RPA business analyst? And there are a lot of questions around it that are in people's mind. So through this session, we intend to answer those questions. So hold on. So we'll be looking at who is a RP business analyst, what does he do exactly, how can you become one, what skills do you need to become a RP business analyst, and what kind of opportunities are there in market, does future scope of RPA BA, because a lot of people think, okay, let us say I become a RPA business analyst, then what? How will my career go? So all these things. We'll also be talking about one of the courses that we offer uh, in RPA, RPA business analyst. So let's start by talking about who exactly is RPA business analyst. Now, a lot of you guys must be either from a technical background, BAs, project managers. So I get asked this question a lot. Okay, I'm a business analyst. I do a lot of projects. What's different about you? What do you mean an RPA business analyst? How is it very different? So to start with, an RPA business analyst is a gatekeeper of processes, and he maintains the automation pipeline. Basically, he is the person who decides which process will be automated and which will not be automated. He is also responsible for performing, high level and deep process analysis that are going to be automated. He is the one who is responsible for removing the obstacles to automation uh, in his client's place or in his company. And he is the face of automation team. He's the one who goes and meets everybody, the customer, the higher ups, the VP level guys, explain them the benefits of automation, how automation can help them, explain to the client or the company how the ROI will be calculated, and how it will impact the IT landscape. Now, like I said, a lot of people said, okay, I'm a normal BA. So how is your job different than mine? And this is where the main differences come in. The very first thing that you will realize if you become an RPA business analyst is a normal business analyst talks and thinks about features. Okay? So that is not what a RPA business analyst do. RPA business analyst actually requires you is a completely different job profile. It requires a completely different skill set. The life cycle of RP projects is also very different. See, unlike normal projects which goes about 2 years, 3 years, RPA projects are actually very short term and have a very compact life cycle. So an RPA PA have to manage that in short cycle, and that short cycle is about 6 months to 12 months. The shortest RP project you will find is 6 months. The biggest that I have done was over in 1 year, right? So it requires a completely different mindset. So basically, if you look at RP business analyst, he do three things. One, he identifies the automation opportunities and maintain the automation pipeline. Second, he creates a documentation called PDD. So PDD is a process definition document, or as we normally call it, as is documentation. This is a documentation of a process that exists as is today, as how the process is done manually today by human beings. And third is he helps out with the testing of the bots. So when the bot is finally ready and made by technical team, how do you test a bot? Okay, because unlike a normal software where we can test screens, we can do CRUD testing, okay, we can test elements on UI. All those things are not there in RPA automation. Why? Think about it. When we are developing a normal software, we define how the screen will look like. We define what will be the pre-condition, what will be the post-condition, what main flow, exception flow, and all those things. But in RPA, you are not doing anything. RPA is just a recording of the process, right? The process how is done by human today, the same process is being done by the robot tomorrow. That's all. So nothing new in terms of software is being developed, nothing new in terms of features is being developed. Only you are automating a existing predefined process. Sorry guys. So that is why it requires kind of a different skill set. So let's go and see, what that is all about. Now, normally people ask me, okay, Abhinav, fine, you have told us about what what the RP business analyst is and what he does, and you have also said, okay, he does things differently. There's a different kind of project. There's a different kind of implementation methodology. Documentation is also different. I get it, but uh, who becomes RPA business analyst, right? So what we have found for last 3 years, we have been teaching RPA business analyst course, and what we have found was this. First of all, testing manual as well as automation testing professionals make for very good RPA business analyst because they already have the process mindset. Of course, their current job is how do I break this process? Okay, how do I break this feature? But that very same mindset is actually very good when it comes to process automation because you want to create robust process. You want to create automation that will not break. So testing manual as well as automation testing professionals make for a very good RPA business. Second are people who are already currently business analysts. For them, it's a simple upgrade. So they can easily upgrade and become an RPA business analyst. And third are project management professionals. So they also have more or less some amount of skill set, and they can also become RPA business analysts. Right? Now, to become an RP business analyst, what are the skills that you need? The very first skill that you need to become an RP business analyst is process mindset. See, normal BAs they think about features. Okay, what new feature will I develop in the software? How will my user use this feature? What will the screen look like? But since we are automating a process, we don't have to think of developing anything new. We are not in automation. We are usually not developing something new. At least not something that user will use. So we don't have to think about in terms of features. We think about in terms of processes. Okay, what is this process? Whether the volume of the process is going up or down. How consistent this process is. How many exceptions this process has. So that is a process mindset. Second is problem solving and analytical skills. So when we think about processes, we also think about, okay, can we re-engineer them? If a robot is going to do this process, can I remove some steps? Simple example is in a lot of financial transactions there is a concept of maker and checker. Now why that concept is there is because we want to avoid fraud. So one person creates a request, another person approves it. That way there is some kind of accountability. But a robot is never going to do a fraud. Robot has no motivation to do a fraud ever, right? So why do we need 2 steps? You don't. You just create a simple business rule that okay, about up to 30,000 rupees, there's no need for you can go and place the order directly, and robot will do it. You'll never break that. Third is communication skill, and this is very important, guys, because as a RP business analyst, you are the face of the team. You are it's the client facing role. Whether you are on site or off site, you are the face of the team, right? So you have to have a very good communication skills because you are going to deal with people who are managers, who are VPs, even CIOs. So you need to have a very good communication skill, and you need to exactly tell them why you are decided to automate or not automate a process. What are the exact benefits? Fourth is a documentation skill because the gold standard when we do an RP project, the gold standard of documentation is a programmer should be able to use PDD documentation, PDD, that is a process definition document, as a user manual. Okay, that means if I give that the PDD document to a programmer, he should be able to carry out all the steps that are defined in that user manual to complete the process without asking a single question. he needs to ask questions, then that means that the documentation has not been done properly. See, the reason for this is the robot is a very mechanical thing. Okay, so if even a button moves from one position to another position, the robot is not able to cope. So that is why when RP business analyst is documenting, we document things at keystroke level, right? We even document if it is a mouse click, it is a left mouse click or right mouse click, because the robot needs to be told each and everything, even the smallest one. And last but not the least, is exposure and understanding of the RPA tools. And this is very important because you are going to communicate to a programmer what the robot is supposed to do. So you need to be put in language that a programmer can translate into something that is technical. So if you are working for a Blue Prism exam, if you are working on a Blue Prism project, you need to understand what. You don't need to be a programmer, but at least you need to understand, what are the components of Blue Prism, what is the architecture of Blue Prism, and then in those words, you create a document that a programmer can use to create a automation for. So now let's explore how you can become an RPA business analyst. Normally, it's actually a pretty simple and straightforward process. So first thing we recommend is if you decide to become an RPA business analyst, and let me tell you guys from the personal experience, it's a very nice and rewarding career. You actually get to help companies, save a lot of money and earn a lot of money in process also. A lot of people also have this misconception that okay, if I automate something, that people will lose job. That is not something that really happens. Okay, people really lose jobs. The reason being, we automate those processes that are very mundane and non-value adding. Okay, for example, gathering data, copy pasting data from one place to another. So nobody aspires to do those jobs. Still, they need to be done. So that is why wherever the RP is implemented, what actually happens is the people who are doing that job, they get actually moved to a better job, a job where more of their analytical skills will be utilized than just copy and pasting something. So the very first thing, if you want to become an RP business analyst, get a proper training. Usually, it's about 20 hours of training. And we do the RPA business analyst course where we make sure you have a exposure to top three tools, that is Blue Prism, UiPath, and automation. And second thing is, once you have done with this training and you get your first role, do not forget to frequently update your skills and learn new RP tools. Now RP is a very dynamic where every 6 months a new tool is coming up. So I'm not saying you learn all the tools, that's impossible, but at least you should be informed about the top 3 or 4 tools that are there in the market and how they work and where they are used and where they should not be used. And as far as possible, try to do the wide variety of RP. So first, identify the skills you need to develop. For example, if you are a developer, a QA person, you have some skills already, but now you need to develop skills like communication skills. You need to have some technical skills also and exposure to RP tools. So identify that. Then get the RPA business analyst training and focus on the skills that you are currently lacking. By the time you finish your BA training, you can get certified and you can start searching for the RPA business analyst jobs. And there are plenty of them that are around. And thanks to COVID-19, a lot of companies that were even not previously taking robotic process automation seriously have also realized how useful this tool is. So the job opportunities have actually exploded. So now, with any job, people ask, okay, sure, sound interesting. It's a cool tool, and it's easy to learn. It seems at least. Okay, but hey, I'm going to spend on training, and what can I expect out of it? Right? So in India, and this is the data that we actually got from our live students. Students have got placed and they have shared their experiences. Let us say if you have experience about 3 to 4 years that is actually an ideal place where you can start learning about RP and try to be a RP business analyst. Okay. After doing the course, you get a salary of between 7 to 9 lakhs, and it can go up to 18 lakhs depending on the demand and location. And that is India. US, it's about $80,000 starting salary for an RP business analyst. So yes, getting your first break in RPA BA might might not give you that salary, but within the first year itself, you, like after you complete 1 year as a RP business analyst, you start earning that amount. And I had one student, he learned RPA BA course. He was like almost 2 years experience, nothing much. So that time he learned RPA business course, and he got a salary of about 5 lakhs. So, and in 2 years, he jumped twice, and he's like 12 lakhs. He reached that level in 2 years. I was, pretty surprised because it took me a lot of time to reach that kind of levels. But that is how hot this market is right now, and there's a huge demand for this. Normally, we also talk about, okay, so let's say I'm RPA business analyst. Now what? Of course, I'll work 3 or 4 years. I will, master my skill. But then what? I need to grow, right? I need to grow every year. I need to learn, keep on learning new things, and I need to earn more because sorry. Uh, Guys, I please mute your mics for the timing. We will have a Q&A session shortly, right? So, yeah, we need to keep on earning more, and we need to also grow professional. So, basically, the career path of a RP business analyst looks like this. Initially, you will be a RP business analyst. You will be learning tools. You will probably start with one of the tools like Blue Prism or UiPath. In 2-3 years, you will gain experience in more tools. So, in 3 years, you can be expected to have exposure to all the three top tools like Blue Prism, UiPath, and Automation Anywhere. Once you do that, you move on to a level after 3 years to implementation manager. At implementation manager level, you will grow, learn different type of automations, different type of RP robots that are there. So we have chatbots, we have front-end robots, we have back-end robots, assisted automation, unassisted automation. We have OCR tools, we have AI integrated with RP and all those things. And that is what we will be doing. And again, spending maybe 3-4 years in that role, you will go to. There are two ways that you can go. Either you can go fully technical and become an RPA architect, or you can become more of an automation expert, which is more of a functional and project management. So an automation expert basically looks at the whole company, not just one department or one small project, but the whole company, and tries to figure out which RP tools can be used there. So obviously, not all solutions, like there's no one solution fits all, right? Same applies for RP tools as well. So what an automation expert really does is he looks at it and says, okay, there's a place where I can use chatbot. There's a place where I can probably do a backend automation. There's a automation I can do, and how can I create value by reducing non-value added work and moving on to the robot? How can I help the whole enterprise, huge enterprise? Right? And like I said, it's a very evolving field. More and more new things are coming up. So when I started in 2017 learning this, it was just RPA, simple RPA, automatic simple processes. Now we have come to a place where we are talking about hyper automation, which by the way we have a session tomorrow on, being taken by Tejas Venkatesh from UiPath. Please do attend for it. I'll put a link for the same chat window after end of my session. We have hyper automation, we have AI, predictive analytics, all those things merging with the RPA. So from being just dumb automation, doing simple jobs, to an intelligent automation, that is where the world is moving. So there is a huge career growth, and for next 10 to 15 years, it will be there. But here's the thing: like with anything, people who get in early get the most benefit, right? So, like I said, my one of my students who did it 2 years back, and in 2 years got a salary or jump of 12 lakhs from 4 lakhs. He understood that fact that okay, get in early, learn for everybody else does, because at some point the saturation will come. And at some point, because in market, if there is a demand, there will be a supply. That supply gets created. So get ahead into that, and if you get ahead right now, then it is a very beneficial. Later on also you can learn, but then again, what will happen at later stages in anything is competition increases. People who learned early, they get a natural advantage over everybody else. Okay. So now let's talk about some of the course and specifically the RPA Business Analyst course that we do. We have like 20 hours, 5 weekend sessions. This is online and instituted, and it's a very unique course. It's very different from what usually happen in online sessions, because it is not like you are watching some video and learning something and getting a certificate. That doesn't work for us. We don't believe in that. So we have a very unique way of teaching. First of all the instructors who teaches our course, any course at our place, they are all people who have actually done RPA projects. So we make sure of that. It's just not something they bring their experience and challenges that they have actually faced in real world to the table. Uh, Second thing is we have something called near live training, right? So what happens is in a real life situation is a business analyst works with the programmers, right? You create a document and you give it to a programmer, and the programmer actually creates a program out of it, right? So we replicate the same thing in classroom. How we do that is we have two courses. One is like RPA Business Analyst course, and one is a technical course. Normally these courses do not intercept, but at certain point we make them intercept. So if we are doing RP business analyst course, for example, with us, what we do is one day we will get a programmer or developer student with you, and then you will sit together and do a project together. So you will develop one of the process, even though it is a sample process. You will document a sample process. You will give it to him. You will actually develop the automation on it, and that gives you a feeling and a simulation of how it will happen in real life, right? We all know, okay, learning something in classroom is a bit kind of theoretical and in isolation. So we try to bring the kind of real life experience into the classroom. So let us say you complete 4 sessions of your 4 weekends. Last weekend you will find yourself paired with a developer, and you will be given a project, and developer is also given the same project. So your job then at that point is to develop the documentation, give it to developer, and then see how much you have learned and what happens when you actually give your document to developer, how developer reacts in real life. Then third is multiple exposure to multiple tools. So what happens is normally most of RPBA I have seen they only say UiPath certification or maybe automation engineer certification, but that doesn't work for us in real life. So what we make sure is you get the knowledge of all top three tools: Blue Prism, UiPath, and automation engineer, at least some exposure to it, so you understand what are the minute differences between these tools, in which situations which tool should be chosen, how the projects of these should be executed. So all three of them are RP tools, but they have their differences and different way of doing things. And most likely scenario is that you will encounter one of the three tools wherever you go. All the other tools are more or less the copies of these things. So we make sure you get exposure to these three top tools, so you have a better understanding of how things work in a real life. Like I said, we have actually differentiated ourselves in many ways. So one of the things we do is take once, repeat many times training kind of thing. That means once you have done the class, let us say at later time you want to do it again because you have forgotten the topic or something, you can just come, schedule a session, and set in a batch that is going on, no extra charges. And like I said, near live examples with hands-on training, of course. Then we also have post-course completion support. Now, what happens is a lot of times we find our students that join the job. Okay, 80% time they are able to do 90% time, like I said, they are able to do something, but they are 10% time they encounter something, and they say, okay, now who I do, I'm not able to understand how to do this. The field itself is new and I don't know how to do this. So who I turn to? So we say you turn to us. Even in the job, if you want some template, if you're not able to understand, even when you got the job, just let us know. And we have a huge library of how to get things done kind of thing, whether it's documents, templates, case studies, or anything, and then we provide them to our students. Once student complete the courses, we prepare his resume, customize the resume for him. We give him a personalized interview coaching because not everybody is the same. You can just give a stock answer to everybody. So if a QA person has become RP business analyst, then we coach him differently. If a business analyst has become RP business analyst, then we coach him differently to give interview. And then of course we have a placement support. Normally we do kind of training on weekdays and weekends. So on weekdays, if you are doing training online, then you can do it like morning and evening slots because a lot of our students, almost all of our students are working professionals with minimum 3 or 4 years experience. And in the batch, we don't keep more than 5 years, 5 students maximum, so as to get a first rate. We have weekdays, morning and evening batches, and weekend batches. If you'd like to. And we both have online and offline training. Obviously, nowadays we are doing it online only because of COVID. But as soon as this improves, we fully intend to restart the classroom training as well. So normally, what happens is if anybody is, what they say, if they want to do this kind of course or this kind of training, they call us. They ask other questions. We usually set up a demo lecture, and then they choose. All right, guys, this was about RPA business and RPA business training that we offer. I would like you to know your thoughts about it and if any of the questions that you have in your mind.
Thank you, Abhinav. That was a wonderful presentation. So the first question is coming from Harish. He's asking, I am working as a BA at Aditya Birla. What will
Okay.
be the takeaway from me for this session?
Uh, okay. So Aditya Birla, as far as Harish, I would just like to know from you, and if it's okay if you can unmute your mic, is that are you already into RPA or already into you're regular BA? Because I do know that Aditya Birla does have a RPA projects going on. We did some work, consulting work from them. And for you, takeaways, I would say, Harish, you know, that get into learn this skill. It is a valuable skill, and even within your organization, if you learn this skill within your organization, also you can reach the higher levels. See, what is happening is normal projects. If you look at normal maintenance projects or even new implementation projects, they are so they are slowly dying down. Okay, and that is because there's a lot of resistance from Western countries, which used to be mostly our clients, to say, okay, stop offshoring our projects, stop offshoring the jobs and stuff like that. So those projects are dying because there's a lot of competition there. So growth has stopped. So if you want to grow, you have to upgrade your skills. And if you're already a business analyst, it is actually very easy to become an RP business analyst and grow for next 10 to 15 years to come.
Oh, that's wonderful. So that second question is coming from Mukta, and she's asking, I am from non-tech background, having 5 years of experience in core BA profile. So please tell me, exactly how much and what kind of technical knowledge is required to learn RPA?
Mukta, if you're already a core BA profile, then I would say that not much. You would need some exposure to RPA tools, and you will be, if you get a training, you will be trained on RPA business, RPA lifecycle. Now, RPA development lifecycle, like I said, is a bit different because the project is usually expected to complete in 6 to 9 months, as opposed to a longer duration of for traditional projects. All right. So you will have to orientate yourself to that. Third thing is you will have to stop thinking in RP projects. There's no new feature development as you have in your normal projects. So you will have to start thinking more in terms of processes rather than features. But apart from that, no, not much. And it is actually easier for BAs to upgrade to being a RPA business.
Okay, Abhinav, the third question is from Nihar, and he's asking, does RPA BA need to use all three tools or any one? If one, then which tool is most popular and will be there in demand?
This is Nihar, right?
Nihar.
Hello. Yeah. All right. Nihar, here's the thing. It's a very good question. So I'll put it this way. Yeah, an RP business analyst must be aware about all the top three tools. That is UiPath, Bluepism, and Automation Engineer. But if you have to choose one tool to start with, I would say UiPath. It's the most in-demand tool. Certification is also pretty simple and straightforward processes. Uh, you know, and it has a lot more job opportunities than other two tools put together. Now the main difference between Bluepism and UiPath is this: UiPath has a better cost structure in terms of licenses. So not only big companies, but even the small and medium-sized companies usually tend to go for it. That creates a lot more job opportunity for you to get a job if you want to look at it. But where Bluepism is ahead in terms of uh, UiPath is that Bluepism is mostly in MNC companies. Obviously, pay is much more higher, right? So, but like I said, if you want to find a job in Bluepism, even as a Bluepism business analyst, it's a bit more difficult. Not very much, but slightly, right? It takes a bit more longer time, but pay is much more higher, and higher amount of jobs is outside India. Right? So it's a personal kind of thing. But remember, as a business analyst in any field, whether it's an RP or any other field, you should be tried to be as much technology independent as possible. And the very nature of RPA is it's a technology agnostic field. It's the only field where the BA is not required to have functional knowledge of the underlying process. Reason is very simple. So let us say you are a BA in financial field, right? So you are required to have some amount of knowledge of financial processes. Otherwise, how will you explain it to programmers, or how will you understand what your client is saying, right? But here, when we automate the processes, we only automate those processes that are well defined, well documented, have standard inputs. That means their inputs, the way they get the input does not change, right? And have a growing or stagnant process, volume of the data, right? So if you already have a documentation, if you already have SME for that project, you don't need to do that. You just need to understand the process, see it from a human's perspective, see the process from a robot's perspective, and then accordingly create your documentation, right? So because of this, the barrier to entry for RPA is a bit lower than normal BA. So let us say I'm being a supply chain business analyst. It is very difficult for me to switch fields and become a finance business analyst. I will probably have to forego some salary or get additional training or something like that, and then rise again. But not so in RPA business analyst, because in RPA again we are not focusing on software, we are not focusing on features and workflows and stuff like that. Of course, workflow we do focus on, but we are focusing on processes and how to automate the processes and take out the humans from the whole thing. And why we do that is because those processes are mundane. Okay, we call them armchair processes. processes where we are just copy and paste data from one system to another. Why we do that is, either those systems cannot be integrated together because they are old systems written in COBOL 80 years ago, or there are some kind of restrictions because US companies say no, we cannot, let you integrate out to our banking system or something like that. So those things, those kind of jobs, as of today, are done by human beings, but really they are just nothing but copy paste jobs. So those kind of jobs are the ones uh, that we automate. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah,
Rajesh.
yeah, Abhinav. So the next question is coming from Saurav, and he's asking, what other tools other than RPA tools does a RPA BA use? Anything like Visio, since we are talking about processes.
Yes, this is Rajesh.
Saurav.
Gaurav. Yes,
Saurav.
Gaurav. Visio is Saurabh. Okay. Saurabh, yes, you are very much correct. Visio is one tool, definitely, that is very helpful when you are RP business analyst, because you need to create the flow diagrams. So every PDD has one section where you have to, capture the process, whether you do it in a flow chart or you do it a streamline diagram or XML or something like that. But yes, that is one tool that comes in handy. But here's the thing: most of the RP tools actually have their own built-in kind of like visual-like functionality. So per se, we don't like in, for example, in Blue Prism, you just can create a same type of flow chart that you can create in Visio. Only difference is this flowchart is actually active. So if you draw a flowchart that says start, launch the browser, go to website, that is what exactly a flowchart will do. So we mostly don't use video, but yes, it does definitely helps you are familiar with it.
Great, Abhinav. So Rajesh is asking, what are all sections are there in PDD?
Uh, okay. So Raj, basically PDD has two sections. One is the process related sections where we document everything about the process that we possibly can. That includes what kind of applications are used to complete the process, what kind of access rights, what kind of user types those applications has, everything. Right? What is the start and end time of process? What is the process volume? What is the maximum process volume? What is the minimum process volume? Right? And what is the schedule of the process? All those things. Second section deals with the steps to complete the process at a very minute keystroke level. And third is we have a process flow diagram. So hold on, let me see if I can show you a PDB. Give me a minute, guys, please. See if it is possible to show you PDB. I'll stop sharing my screen for a minute. This. Okay, guys. Hopefully, you guys are able to see my screen. So this is what PDD sections in PDD are. You have process description uh, and scope, flow diagram, exception scenarios, technical systems, triggers and outputs. Like, okay, what will trigger the process? Whether somebody starts the process, whether it's done by scheduler, and what is the output of the process. Holiday scenarios, that is basically when the process will not run. Like, it doesn't make any sense to run a financial report on Sunday because probably nothing happened on Saturday. And required input and output. Then you have keystroke level process details. So let us look at it a bit. You have like an introduction, words, 250, 300 words, and what it's all about. Scope, what are the applications that are using processes, apps, data, business logic and complexity, fit with tool, and existing impact of the process. You have a nice flow diagram, and this is not made in Visual, this is made in the RP tool itself. Assumptions, what is in scope and out of scope for the automation that we are about to do. How, what kind of bot it is, attended, unintended scope of the automation, normal things. Exception scenarios. So all processes have exceptions, right? So if you have a process, there's bound to be exceptions, and whatever they are, whether it's a business exception or technical exception, we document them. Example wise, let us say I want to book a flight on 30th February. I can't because there is no 30th February, right? So that's a business exception. And suppose I want to book a flight and the website is down, so that's a technical exception. Example. Target systems, triggers and outputs. What will trigger the process, whether somebody will start it or it will do automatically, or a process starts on the email receipt, something like that. The days on which the process will not run, and what are documents and inputs required by the process. Then you can see in this level of detail, with the very minute keystroke level, we have this documentation. So even a sample documentation you will see, and this is just a sample documentation, is of 14 pages. The actual ones go to 20 30 pages and takes about minimum of half a day to 1 day to make. Okay. So hopefully that will answer your question.
Then Saurabh is asking again. He's asking, what are the biggest challenges an RPA BA face as per your experience?
Okay. Sort of good question again. So I would say here's the thing. The biggest challenge, there are two, three challenges we face. One is working with the handwritten documents, not electronic documents, the handwritten ones. So let us say there's a receipt or invoice, that is handwritten one, that is scanned, and that is very difficult to work with because a letter A itself can be written in, sorry, the alphabet A itself can be written in 200 different types, okay, minimum. So scanning and working with the handwritten document is the biggest challenge for us because it's very difficult for computer to recognize handwriting. Second is working with Citrix applications because Citrix applications are very smooth. Okay, normally what happens is when an RPA tool, let us say RPA, tell the RPA tool, say go and click here. To RPA tool, this is a .NET application, and this button is very uniquely recognizable. Okay, it has a red color, it has some text, it has something, so it can recognize it. But that is not in Citrix application. Uh, you know, the whole thing is encapsulated into another application, so it's very difficult to work with them. And third is with the screen resolution. See, RPA tool, like I said, is a robot, whether software or actual hardware robot. It's a very mechanical thing. Okay, so let us say if this button moves from here to here because I developed my RPA solution on a 14-inch screen and deployed on a screen that was 13 inches. So this button actually moves from here to here, and the robot will fail because it is not able to find this button. So these are top three challenges when we deal with when we are doing with the RPA applications or RP projects.
So Harish is asking, will UiPath also be part of the training or some other RPA tool?
Okay, so as a part of the training, we give you exposure to three tools, that is UiPath, Blue Prism, and Automation Anywhere. Right? Like I said, as a BA, you are not going to have to code, but you should know enough to change your write your requirements in such a way that programmers can decipher them. So we teach you from the point of view of all three tools: Blue Prism, UiPath, and Automation Anywhere. Uh, okay, so duration, like I said, is about 20 hours over 5 weekends. That is a 4-hour lecture each time, in which 2 hours is what we tell you, and 2 hours we make you do some kind of a hands-on exercise. Cost is about 11,000 rupees.
So if any one of you want to ask your question directly to Abhinav, you can just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, hi, Abhinav. This is Sumit.
Hi, Samit.
Yeah, actually, I just want to ask one question that I come from non-tech background. I have done BA. I am Bachelor in
Okay.
Arts, and
Okay.
I have a total year of experience, 8 years of experience, out of
Okay.
which 4 year of experience is in underwriting, insurance underwriting,
Okay.
and remaining 4 year of experience in BA underwriting, BA, sorry, and
Okay.
I have a total experience in insurance domain. And
Okay.
wherein I have a PNC, I have worked on PNC okay, with DXC. Now I am working with RX Advance in health insurance.
Okay.
So I have been listening to you with all the question you were answering. So I have
Mm-hmm.
a few question that how useful this course would be for me because I come from this non-tech background, and
Mm-hmm.
cost you have already told us. So
Right.
please help me with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
Yeah. I
it
got it.
good for me
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go for this or not?
Sure.
And
Sure. I'll
what is the
answer your question one.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Oh,
please.
I missed the last part.
What is
I missed
the
the last
probability
part.
to get a job right now?
All right. Okay. So I'll go one by one. So first of
Yeah,
all,
please.
BA role itself is a non-technical role. Okay. Like I said, it's a non-technical role, and where you just have to know enough technical have enough technical knowledge to communicate whatever is in your mind to a programmer. Okay. Now, Rajesh, you have a very good profile, and one thing is, one of the biggest customers of RPA is financial companies, especially insurance ones. So you do insurance underwriting, right? You do claims processing and stuff like that, and you must have known those processes, right? Where a lot of times, okay, I am claim processing. The only thing the claim processor is doing is he's getting the some kind of he matches that claim against a set of rules and decides whether to process the claim fully, partially, or not at all. Correct? So that is
Right,
exactly the kind of processes that a robot is very much able to do faster. We did a project for one of the insurance companies in Dubai, and normally claim processor takes about 2 days. That is my understanding. Correct me if it is wrong. To process some claim, depending upon how complex the claim is. So it can be 2 days, it can be 5 days also. Okay.
right.
The robot can do the same thing. Okay, from 2 minutes to 20 minutes. From 5 days,
Okay,
the time can come down to 20 minutes. So all insurance companies sooner or later are going to adopt this technology, and that is why if you learn it now, it will be very very helpful for you. Okay. In India, all the banks are now adopting this technology, or the insurance and financial companies are the first one to adopt any new technology that benefits them. They are the biggest spenders on technology, any new technology. Remember when the ATMs came, who first adopted them was the banks. Any new technology comes, the banks, insurance companies, and finance companies are the biggest spenders on that. you are not being from a non-technical background will not be a hindrance in this case, because like I said, it's a non-technical, and actually you have a very good advantage because you are already from finance background, right? So you have a very good advantage if you do. Uh, and in terms of placement support, placement, we do provide placement support.
Okay. So likewise, Abhinav, I am into BA profile wherein my most of the work is in implementation
Right.
of our work. Okay, I work for a US client for
Mm-hmm.
PBM, pharmacy benefit management. It's healthcare.
Okay. Yeah.
So wherein I am mostly into implementation team, not
Right.
into the requirement gathering part or creating any document. I'm not into right now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I uh, cope up with this kind of training?
Okay, so that is not a much of a difficulty, because what happens is when we do training, we actually start with assumption that you don't know anything about the field, okay, and we cover everything. So requirement gathering in RPA is actually pretty straightforward and simple. It's all template based. We have a template that is captures more or less all the things. Okay, the questions are already in the template. Your job is to uh, your job is merely to get the answer to those questions from the stakeholders. Once you have done that, you create a PDD documentation, and then you give that documentation to it, explain that same thing to the programmers as well as technical architect. And then that point, your job is done for a time being. Once
Okay.
the technical team comes back and says, okay, we have created automation based on what the PDD document you have given to us, and what technical architect told us to do, you will check it against the manual process because you understood the manual process and you were the one who sat with the stakeholders. So you'll check the whole process. And once you are satisfied, then you will help your stakeholders to complete a UAT. As a BA, this is what they do. But remember,
Okay.
you are BA, you are also phase of a team. So whenever something comes up, it's technical team who will come to ask you. And it is you as a BA who will be facing the high level stakeholders that are VP level guys and CIO level guys, right? So in that sense, it also gives you a huge amount of visibility to top management, and that helps your career growth a lot.
Okay. So what are the company you have tie up with for this placement and all?
So, so we have with tie up with few of things like we have with the Capgemini, we have with Datamatics. A lot of our people go from Datamatics, and we have a lot more companies coming in. So we don't have tie up with all of them because a lot of companies only do one time recruitment. They come us, they say we have an opening, and you just send the like resume. But like I said, don't take my word for it. Do your independent research, see on Naukri.com or LinkedIn how many jobs are there, and daily you get calls for this. Because right now situation is it's very simple. It is there's a less supply and more demand. But that
Right.
situation will not remember like be like that forever. As there is a huge demand, people will come into from a field outside, then they will try to fill it because it's profitable to do. Simple as that. So that is why we're saying that this is approximately about right time. And thanks to this COVID, more and more companies have realized that how vulnerable their processes are if something like this happens, right? So imagine, you're not getting your build process because some employee did not come to office because of COVID. Of course, you can't force that person to. But if you automate that kind of process, lot of things actually still keep moving, even though there's a pandemic and stuff like that. So that has also put an additional spotlight on the whole thing. So we actually saw the demand spike for this kind of skill set after COVID. Not a ideal situation, but yeah, that is how it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Abhinav, very well mentioned about the RPA roles and the requirement of RPA at the time of COVID situation. So from Saurav again, he's asking,
Mhm.
can you throw some light on job prospect of RPA BA in North America?
North America, actually, there's a lot of jobs, but I'll be very frank with you. North America, the way it is going right now, job is not a problem. Trump is, right? So I'm sure you guys must have known that Trump has basically put an end to the H-1 visa. They're saying it's only 6 month ban, but I doubt it. But it's not only North America, even the Europe, Canada, Australia have a lot of RPA jobs. And if you talk about North America, the salary is about $1,800 starting. That is what you can make a start, and it goes up to $150,000 also, $200,000 also. So depends upon where you are. If you are already there and you do course from here and apply there, then that's wonderful. If you are from India right now and you are thinking of going about, I'm sorry, but right now the way situation is COVID, Trump, and all the things. Maybe not in the near future, for at least not for next 1 year. But as things is, yes, definitely.
Wonderful, Abhinav.
So, Anand, do you have any word from our next speaker?
Yeah, so he's actually joining in just couple of minutes. He's having a
Okay.
little trouble while signing in. So
Okay.
in time we can take more questions. So
Yeah,
if
definitely,
anyone,
definitely.
yeah, so if anyone wants to ask your question directly to Abhinav, you can just unmute yourself and ask again. In meantime, Nihar has asked again one question. He's asking,
Sure.
can RPA BA be hired for software development companies?
I'm sorry, come again.
Can RPA BA be
Hmm.
hired for software development companies?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who do you think does the projects for the clients, right? So most of the time, it is software development companies that hire RPA business analysts and deploy them at the client side. Uh, Reason it's mostly this, like I said, the RPA projects are a smaller duration, 6 to 9 months. So what happens is RPA BA usually first of all takes at least two projects simultaneously. So the way it works is you go to one client, you do the requirement gathering of phase one, all PDDs, uh, sit down with the programmers, explain to them what is required, and while they're developing and doing their stuff for next at least maybe let us say 2 3 weeks, you move on to the alternate line and repeat that activity. Uh, Second thing is that is why RPB is actually get hired more by the software companies, because let us say nobody wants to hire one person for 9 months or even 1 year. Like companies like to have things on long term basis. The only exception to this is financial companies, where they are actually trying to automate as many processes as possible for two reasons. First, it saves them a lot of cost, a lot. Okay? And the second reason is because they are essential service. Without them, our society will not function properly. So they want to automate and keep things moving, no matter what. So they hired RPBs on a more longer term basis, like at least 3 4 years. They put it, because it's not just one department. They will take one department that will itself take 1 year, and they will move on to next department. And that is why they try to do this. Now let's see how much money a company saves by implementing a simple process. So let's assume there's this data entry kind of a job, they do in BPOs and KPOs, and there's a person who is earning not much, maybe about 2 lakh rupees a year, right? And there are at least 4 or 5 guys, so that's 10 lakh a year. But that's not the only cost. They have to be provided a place to sit. Okay, that is a cost. They have to manage. Their payroll has to manage. So that all adds a cost. So employee actually who is earning 2 lakhs cost his employer 3.5 lakh in cities. Okay, multiply that by 5. Because small process, 5 people are needed, and sometimes people go on leave as well, right? So I need to have a backup and stuff like that. So 5 people are needed. Now one robot can do a job of all these 5 people actually. Okay, how? One person can only work maximum 8 hours. Okay, and that is very diligent employee. Otherwise, we do work for 2 hours, we take some break. Effectively, productivity of a very good employee is 6 hours, not more than that. Robot has a very good productivity. It can work 24/7, does not require a place to sit. Okay, does not take a holiday. It will run as long as the server runs. So normally, a robot license that costs about 5 lakh rupees and maybe implementation cost of 2-3 lakhs. Okay, easily replaces 5 employees, which will cost about 15 lakhs easily. And that is only for this year cost. Okay, if you are paying something to employees, then next year employees will ask more because inflation. And then sometimes the employee leaves and you have to replace them and train them again. So the overhead cost of there is. So all that thing is gone. Simple cost 7 lakh rupees every year. That's it, right? And that is just one simple small process. There are so many this kind of processes that are there in big enterprises, the bigger ones, that are actually required to be done, but they are not exactly value adding. So financial enterprises are the ones who hire a lot of RPAs. It is responsibility of BA. Remember, it is responsibility of BA to identify these processes and recommend to company that we should automate them and save money. So IT companies and finance companies, they tend to hire RPA staff on full-time basis for long durations. Other people usually hire from IT companies for a short duration.
Great explanation, Abhinav. So there's a couple of more questions. So
Sure.
Rajesh is asking, is there any program for PM to get into RPA project manager role?
Yes, there is. Okay, so this RPA BA program itself covers two, 3 things. One is the introduction to RPA. Second thing is RPA Business Analyst training, and third is RPA implementation management training, implementation management training. So all these three things are combined into one for RPA BA role. Reason being, like I said, RPB is a smaller, RPA, projects are smaller, so team cannot be very big. Normally, RPA team comprise of one business analyst, one tester, and 2-3 developers, right? So that means the BA itself has to do implementation management as well, and that is why it's already part of the.
Okay, Saurabh is asking again, is there PDD the only documentation that an RPA BA focuses on?
PDD is the one of the major documentation that RPBA focuses on. There are other documents as well. Uh, so one is the STDD. But see, STD is solution definition document. But RPBA is not actually required to make solution definition document. That is the responsibility of technical architect. But RPA business analyst is required to help technical architect prepare STD. That is one thing. Other documents include component library and process libraries. So in RPA, what we do is we try to make a reusable component. For example, you make an automation that does one simple thing: log into application and log out. But once you have made that component, uh, you want to keep a track of it because it might be that other team member requires a component, and why reinvent the wheel every time, right? So what you do is you will keep a library of components as you develop RPA projects, uh, and that is what the BA also focuses on. So that is other, but these, but those are very small documents, and BA does not spend more than 5 to 7% of their time. PDDs is the most difficult one to create, because that is when you really go talk to stakeholder, understand. Creating PDDs is the most difficult exercise in any RPA project. Creating PDDs, getting sign off on those PDDs, that is the most difficult, and that is why most focus is on that. And yes, of course, RPBA also have to create a documentation of testing. How will testing be done? What will happen if bot has low volume? What will happen? How will bot behave? It has very high volume. I created a bot that can handle 100 requests per hour. What happens if 200 requests per hour comes? How will bot handle that? Should bot work extra time to process all the requests, or should bot postpone those requests to next day, assuming that in next day volume will be low and it will be able to catch up? How does bot handle error? If I get invalid data, how will bot handle that? Right. So all those things are also somewhere or the other documented, and yes, it's a responsibility of VA to focus on that and also help the testers and testing team to write test cases for the same.
Okay, fine, Abhinav. So Rajesh has asked, RPA project manager should have experience of BA role as well.
Not necessarily, but it helps if he does. Because there is no such thing as a RPA project manager per se. Like I said, RPA teams are very small. It's like one BA, one what you call as tester, and 3 to 4 developers max. Right. So basically, RPB is supposed to do project management as well. That is to say, create a project plan and think about which processes will go in which phase. So basically, the way we tend to do it is we tend to automate the processes that are very easy to automate and just simpler ones first, and then more the medium complex one in between, and the most complex one in the last. So again, it is a responsibility of a RPA business analyst to do the implementation and identify the processes and the phases in which those processes will go.
Very well. So Saurav is asking again, is it true to say that NFR plays an extremely important role in RPA BA?
Sorry, come again.
Is it true to say that NFRs play an extremely important role in RPA BA?
Can you tell me what is NFR? I'm not familiar with that.
Saurav, you can non-functional requirements.
Okay, non-functional requirement. Saurabh, here's the thing. There is no such thing as non-functional requirement in a robot. Okay, simple as that. Reason being, when I'm developing a software, I'm developing a stream, right? What we call as non-functional requirement is basically UI requirements, correct? But when I'm developing a robot, there is no UI. Robot runs as per schedule or when it is invoked by human being, and robot will actually go and open the application, and basically do the application. Okay, so there is no non-functional requirement in RPA project. That's the nature of it. Hold on. Guys, I would like to show you a video while we wait for our next speaker. Okay, this is a UiPath video. I don't know whether some of you have seen it or not, but let's just go through it and see how the robot works.
In this demo, we'll see how UiPath robots can use AI to screen candidates for a job position in an HR management application. Based on the contents of the candidate's resume, the robot will decide whether that candidate is a good match for the position or not. To do that, the robot uses the skill platform, which is offered by Skyline and allows the creation of custom AI models. In the activities panel on the left side, we can see activities used to interact with skill, like skill deployment scope, classify data, and decision learner. They are used in this workflow that reads the resume from a PDF and then transforms the data into a representation that the AI model can process. After that, the robot will classify a candidate based on the contents of the resume, and it'll output a prediction of what kind of professional he or she is, as well as its confidence level about that prediction. If the confidence level is lower than a specific threshold, the robot will request the help of an operator. By using the decision learner activity, the operator can teach the robot whether that candidate fits the requirements of the job position. Finally, based on the prediction, the robot will shortlist the candidate or reject the application. Let's run the workflow, see how it works in practice. First, the robot opens and logs into the HR management system. It then checks the list of candidates and filters the applications that were initiated for the data scientist position. For each candidate, the robot accesses the page with the details.
So guys, this is basically robot performing all the tasks by itself.
Of the candidate. It saves the file and reads its contents. We can see here that we already have a strange situation. A farmer applying for a data scientist position. This must have been a mistake. The robot understands that this candidate is not a good match for the data scientist position and automatically rejects the application. In the last step, the evaluation, it writes a note to indicate that this candidate was screened by a robot. The robot then moves to the next candidate, opens the details page, and downloads the new resume. Based on the concepts like education and skills, the robot understands that this is a data scientist, shortlists the candidate, and writes a note about the automatic screening. Now the robot will evaluate the last initiated application. The last candidate to be processed also has a technical background, but not exactly the profile of a data scientist. Since the robot doesn't have enough confidence to decide, it will ask for the help of an operator. The operator can examine the resume and teach the robot if this candidate fits the profile of a data scientist. This new data is then used to improve the accuracy and the confidence of the AI model. After processing all candidates, the robot closes all used applications and finishes its execution. This demo showed how to integrate UiPath with the skill platform to create the next generation of robots that can make decisions and learn from humans.
All right, guys. So
So Abhinav, Vinitini, she has asked a question. She's asking,
okay.
are companies hiring separate RPA testers in RPA projects?
Yes, they are, but those jobs are a bit few at the moment. But yes, they are. I believe that those jobs will also grow, RPA testers. But normally, what happens is, you know how companies are. They try to save as much money as they can. So basically, they some lot of times they ask either the programmers or developers or them together to do the testing itself. Uh,
Yeah, Abhinav, so Rajesh has asked, what are all skill sets? What are all skills an RPA PM should possess other than RPA project management skills?
When I say skill sets, let me just go back to this slide. One is your process mindset. That is, you don't think about features because you're not developing a new feature in the software, right? You're automating a process. So basically, your process mindset, problem-solving skills, communication skills, and documentation skills. These are two very important because you should be able to communicate with the higher level stakeholders, and you should be very, very good at documentation. And last, this is also quite important, and that's exposure to RPA tools. Process mindset is something that can easily develop, and problem solving and analytical skills most of the people have, right? We all, if you are working in a technical kind of environment, then it's like given that you are a problem solver and an analytical guy. So those two are okay. Those are not exactly what I call must have. But communication skills, documentation skills, and exposure to RPA tools and or their methodologies, and knowledge of their life cycles, and how to go about executing a project. These are very must-have skills that if you are going to work in RPA project, you should have. Okay, guys. Any other question, guys?
नहीं अभी तो यार काफी कुछ तो खुल ही गया
All right, guys. So Anand, I think we don't have any news from our next speaker yet.
You know, he's still having some trouble in joining.
Oh, okay. So let's see. He can probably adjust him somewhere tomorrow. Oh, okay, he has arrived. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Anand, I'll make the presenter again.
Yeah.
Hi,
Sure.
good evening.
Hello, Niranjan. Good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, good evening, Niranjan. Hi.
Hi, apologies for the delay. I'm sorry, like there was a board meeting. I'm sorry for that.
No problem, Niranjan, and thank you for joining us tonight. We all really appreciate that.
Sure. Let me know what's the next step like.
Sure. So Anand will introduce, and then we can begin.
Hi Niranjan, this is Anand. So first of all, very warm welcome to our session.
Thanks, Anand. Thank you
For
so
the-
much. I know you're calling me, but I was in the board meeting, could not take the call. I'm so sorry for that, and sorry for the delay.
No problem. So for everybody's benefit, I would like to introduce you first. So hello guys, Mr. Niranjan Ramakrishnan is a group vice president, digital, Leixir Dental. Niranjan has over 2 decades of experience in healthcare IT domain and demonstrated large-scale projects in Indian and global healthcare technology. He is also leading the innovation and digital enterprise initiatives of Kaveri Hospital Group, Chennai, and rest of the Tamil Nadu. Prior to this, he was leading IT initiatives in Sri Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi. So, Niranjan, you can start.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Anand, just can you give me a very quick, maybe 30-second intro about who are the audience that I'm going to be talking to?
Niranjan, we have a mix of audience. We have people, mostly some of them are BAs, some of them are students, and some of them are a bit higher level at manager level as well. So we have a mix of audience, and we are all very curious about RPA.
Sure. And how much time I have approximately?
So you have about till 9 o'clock, 9:10, I guess.
Okay, sure. Because I want to. Okay. So I just the way I really kind of made this my presentation like two sections, but I will the first section I'll really go through very quickly because I represent at least in my current role as a group vice president and group head of technology, digital technology. Like I'm more from the service side. So instead of me talking more on the technology part, I really thought how the technology gets adopted in the industry and how the business organizations really enjoy using it and what is the real value of investment really we experience. End of the day, no technology would be really successful if it's not really delivering the tangible benefits, right? And one thing really I want everyone to understand is we shouldn't choose the technology and then search for the problem, and we should have a problem first, understand the problem completely, come up with various options and various solutions, and then we should really explore what is the most suitable technology. So one thing like I used to keep hearing from the hospitals, like, hey, RPS comes, how do you use RPA in the hospital? I said that should not be the way. We should talk about the problem and see how this problem could be addressed. Then we think, oh, is the RPA is the right solution or not, right? So I really want to very quickly like run through my first kind of set of slides because that's more on the technology, and I'm sure like Anubhav and everyone would have already covered that. But I really want to spend a little quality time on my second part, which is how did we adopt that and how did we kind of get the the real benefit out of it. Okay. So this is like I'm sure like you guys would have already got multiple times as an input why an RPA, like when RPA really is really used. So anything that you wanted to do user interface level, because when the business asks us how the the RPA really helps us, we don't want to give them a kind of a promise that I don't want them to visualize that it's a real robot sitting there and can do anything, right? So it has a lot of limitations and also it has a lot of advantages, but we need to know exactly where we are supposed to really like adapt. So what RP can really do and what it cannot do, I think that the difference we should really know. So anything on the UAE level definitely we can do, and we don't need to really get into the API level of integration, especially where there is a problem that the systems are not willing to really change the APIs, both from the limitation on the platform side as well as from the vendor perspective. Then this could be an easy solution. And there is no limitation on the application side, and we don't need to really get into like how the system works, what's the system behind, etc. So it's purely like the front end integration. So that way. I think the most important thing we should really know is when we really run business. I represent a large group of dental lab. We are the fourth largest dental lab in the US, and so one of our labs was using a system, lab management system. They were totally reluctant to really like do any kind of handshake with our other systems. So we had to really struggle a lot, and finally we decided to adopt again, RPA. And today our lab gets closed at 8 o'clock, and the next day morning when they come in, all the outsourced products gets received, invoices gets created, labels gets printed, and so next day morning the labels are pre-printed in the printer and it's lying there. So just team comes in, takes the invoices, takes the labels, and puts the manufactured dental products into the boxes, and then they just ship it to the customers. So the entire process happens without any intervention. So this is a real kind of use case, I would say, where either API is not there or the vendor is not willing to really share the API, right? So in case you guys have any questions, I don't know if it's interactive, but you can definitely chat or you can ask me the question. So when do we do that? When do we kind of adopt that? One is wherever there is a repetition of nature of work, and where there are real kind of rules that you can really create. And of course, it has to be, if not fully structured, at least it should be semi-structured. It can't be very ad hoc based way of working. And these are the very high level, I would say. But then, in detail, we can really even discuss. But as long as any nature of work that it has a repetition, you have more people involved in it. You want to reduce the kind of number of people, or you want to utilize the time when people are not there, especially as I said, in the night time, you wanted to run the engine, and the next day morning things really to happen. It really works, really in the benefit of saving cost of human resource as well as in process automation.
Niranjan, our audience is requesting that you go a bit slower.
So I should go slow?
Yeah, a bit slower. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay. Okay, so what kind of services industry that we can really like we can use at least so far based on the experience of the some of the large service providers that we have in the country. Like one is the onboarding, customer onboarding or client onboarding process, and wherever we have to do the document processing, and the most important thing is I would say like the data analysis. In again going back to our business, as we said, like we have the huge number of dental business that happening. So we get like 3,000 plus dental patients coming in every day and taking some or other services. We have a large number of invoices and spreadsheets getting generated every day, and we got to do a lot of analysis and then make a meaningful report the next day morning. So the business heads would really expect a morning 6 o'clock a report going into them about the previous days, the number of cases received, how many cases are on hold, how many cases have been like pending clarity from the dentist, etc. All that analysis today we are able to really automate thanks to RPA. So data analysis is a huge use case that we should really consider. And so these are some of the benefits. Again, like I'm trying to really run through very fast in these slides because you would have already heard it. One definitely a very important thing is the low kind of on-code. I'll just give an example. Like we were engaging a vendor, and some reason we could not really continue to work with that particular vendor, and then we got to migrate our QuickBooks server, which is the accounting application. And the challenge was like, oh, when we are migrating to a new server, what will happen to the RPA code that we have got it developed by another company? And you won't believe, like just with 1 day of effort, even our in-house team with a little bit of support, we were able to do it. Because as long as you know the business rules and as long as you know like exactly like the structure that we follow, I think it was very easy for us to really handle. So the dependency on the third-party vendors were not very high. So that's one of the important benefit from the business perspective. So these are the generally questions like people have. In fact, I'd seen one of the most advanced RPA implemented in a lab in San Jose in the US. It's completely very advanced. They go to the level of the entire lab gets ready before any technician steps into the lab. They spend a lot of money, but they really adapted. So if you're asking that question like between attended and unattended, there is a cost factor, but you need to know exactly when to use what type of application, what type of licenses, and you need to be able to really like demonstrate the value of the investment as well as the return on investment if you understand the business process. For example, if you say like we engaged two accountants sitting and doing everyday kind of reconciliation of the accounts, and then you say, for example, like 40,000 rupees or maybe 70,000 rupees you're spending, and two employees, like maybe with all the benefits 2 lakhs rupees. I'm just giving a very simple example, right? So if you say like if I'm buying a license worth of like maybe $3,000 and in a year, and one attended license, for example, and then I can really do the return on investment. I can explain you are dependent on two individuals. In case that one employee did not turn on a particular week or something, you have a problem, and this is the dependency on the two individuals to come and do that activity. But it is a kind of a repetitive activity. Whereas I can really automate this with this kind of platform, and this is what's going to be the cost, and this is the benefit that you're going to get it, right? So I think we should be in a position to really explain the value of the investment in a very structured manner, and I think that the business would be more than happy to really adopt it. But I think the understanding that we need to have as a business analyst or as the technologist like using the RPA is when to use and what and why should we use it, and also the exact application of the right tool in the business use cases, right? So not every time everything can be really automated. I will also give an example when I show the case study where we really thought we would do, and finally we ended up doing extra effort when we are trying to do RPA versus the normal automation. So we need to be very clear. Otherwise, what will happen is with multiple failed use cases, the trustworthiness on the RPA itself would fail. So you got to be very, very clear when to automate with the normal, technology, kind of software coding and other thing versus the RPA automation. So that's very, very critical for us to know it and then, adapt it during our in the business sides. So as I said, this is the typical, life cycle that one would go through. For example, if I'm running this as a business and, if I really feel like, I means as a company, as an industry, I decided to use the RPA, then what is the process that I'll go through along with the development team or the technology team? And it's kind of an SDLC, but it's very specific to the RPA. And this is what we went through, in fact, and so typically the governance model of the project, etc. So how we were really doing the automation in the past and how things really completely automated now. It's just giving you a brief. I'll get into the case study. Yeah, this is where I can really talk in detail. So how RPA really become helps in organizations' business objective. In making sure that we achieve those objectives that as an organization that we really wanted to do using the technology, right? So these are the 4 use cases that we kind of considered. Just to give you I'll take 1 minute to explain the business what we are into. The dental lab means our customers are the dentists. So when as a patient, when we go to the dentist, when we have some problem for example, you need to really replace your tooth, or you want to really implant and you want to do kind of put a a bridge or something like that, or you want to put a night guard, and things like that. Normally what happens, the dentist takes an impression of yours, either in the digital using an intraoral scanner or using a kind of physical impression using a mold, and then they send that impression to the labs. So the digital impression comes through cloud portal and people download as an image. It's like a CAD/CAM image. Or the physical impression, they put it in a box and then they ship it through UPS or something. So the dental labs receive that. So there will be an RX. RX is more like a prescription or a specification coming from the dental office saying that, hey, this is the patient and the patient has this problem. This particular tooth has a problem and the patient color code is this. There are a lot of specific preferences that the practice wants to really communicate to the dental lab, and based on the spec that the lab receives and also the impression, then they create the case in the lab management system, and then they need to really create a model, and then once the model is printed and the model gets really reviewed and approved, then the final the artificial tooth gets manufactured, and then it gets shipped to the practice. And then the doctor really puts that the finished product, the artificial product, on the patient's mouth and replacing the existing tooth. And then they need to ensure that everything works perfectly fine. So this is the complete life cycle for a dental lab. So the biggest challenge that normally we get through is in a day, for example, if a lab gets like a 600 to 700 cases, the different type of specs that we get it from the practice and for different type of products, there will be missing information, additional information required, and things like that. So when all these things happen, a lot of manual work happens in terms of the creating the case. And when I say creating the case, you need to basically book the case in the lab management system, and then you really ensure that there are 40 and odd process that lab management system have to go through. The spec goes along with the process. So the case management itself, it's a huge activity. Creating a 600 cases in a lab management system, it's a huge task. And the entire business works based on the turnaround time. We call it a TAT. Between 7 working days from the time that a dentist send a case, the finished product needs to be sent back to the office, because the patient is suffering there, and the patient needs to wait for 7 days to fix his or her tooth. So you cannot really take more than that. That means every day is so critical for the business, both from the return on investment and the business, as well as from the customer experience perspective. So what we really thought is, okay, how quickly we can really automate. So the project that we started and we failed, which I really want you to know, more than the one that we were very successful, right? So the project that we failed was the case creation automation. What we thought, we will just have all the RX downloaded, And we, in fact, internally we were using some kind of scripts we have written to convert all the XML files into simple spreadsheet. And then we were trying to really upload the spreadsheet to the back office, through the backend into the lab management system. So this is an internal automation. The in-house development team were trying to really do it. So we thought instead of doing this, why don't we really engage an RPA company? That's how the whole thing started. We said, hey, this is the spec and this is the XML that we get for every case, and can you really go and create the case? You won't believe, we spent a lot of time, and finally we found for running each and every case and doing that, and the actual the manual entry or the alternative way of automation, RPA was taking a lot of time. It was so cumbersome and we could not really kind of deliver it. So we decided to give up there. And then we thought, okay, we never thought that invoicing or financial booking, posting, etc. would be even a use case, but we thought, why don't we try that? And it was quite successful there. So some of our labs are also outsource the business to other countries. So what happens, when from the US, when they're really outsourcing to India or maybe China or somewhere else, by the time that when they receive the cases back, they were getting an email, with an spreadsheet attached about the cases details. We found that there's the next day morning when the girls come into the lab in the morning, 8 o'clock or 7:30, they have to download the email, take a printout of Excel sheet, go through line by line, and then see whether the case is really ready, and then go and create the invoice for each and every case, then print the label. When I say the label, that UPS label that you have to put it, and then keep everything ready. By the time that the finished product comes from China or India, then they have to really open the box, put the invoice into that, put the sticker on the box with the label, and then they have to send it back to the doctors. And you won't believe, by the time the cases are ready to go to the practice, it was almost like a 3 p.m. on any given day. That means we almost lost one full working day in that. So what we did is, India and US are exactly 12 hours difference. That means we can comfortably work in our daytime, which is the night time for them. So today, the way the process happens is all these emails are automatically read, right? And we know that that email comes from the vendor. Like we have clearly communicated that whenever they send the emails on the finished system, they need to really communicate to means they are basically they'll copy that the confirmation email to the RPS. We created a common email ID. So the moment we receive those emails, so RPA really picks up the spreadsheet. It goes through each and every kind of case number, like where the cases are ready. It checks the status. Then it opens the lab management system. It really creates the invoice for each and every case. And then once all the invoices are created, it creates a report and submits to the lab. Also, we print the labels for each and every case that it's going to be delivered. So next day morning, when our team comes in into the lab, invoices are created, the labels are printed, and the labels are already there in the the printer readily available. So they just come in, and the way even the printers are kept and the way the labels gets printed are so systematic. They just come, they pick it up, the box comes in, they just put it, and then they send it. So by 8:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning, the cases gets shipped out. That means the same day that a dentist gets it, that means we are able to really save one working day completely for every doctor, every patient. And also, that the 2-member team sitting and working, as an extra effort and cost in the US, we were able to really save that. So this is just one use case, and like that, we had multiple use cases where we were able to really use the RPA. And this is the process that how the whole project started. And we have to create the SOPs. We have to ensure that infrastructure is ready. Most of the time, I'm telling you, the project fails if you don't have the SOPs in place before engaging a RPA vendor, right? So as a business, you need to have the SOP in place. And if you are representing the vendor, you need to know exactly how to assist the business to come up with the right SOPs. You may come up with a lot of right templates so that they can really quickly they can give it, because end of the day we got to partner with the industries or the services for us to make sure that the business really works. And so we need to be able to really have multiple round of workshops, because you cannot understand the entire business of dental in a week's time or couple of weeks, but same time without knowing the business you cannot really help them in automation. So you need to be able to understand with a couple of workshops, or understand with a little bit of business process. So there are two type of skill set that I would say it's pretty important. One is as a RPA, as a technique, as a technical resource. The other most important thing is as a business analyst. In fact, in my mind, business analyst plays a major role rather than the technology part of it. So this is very critical piece here. And also understand exactly how the whole the control points at every in the whole process, and try to really have each and every process. In fact, when I was there in the US, when these projects are happening, I really manually walk the video capture each and every process, from the time the case comes in, they open the box, each and every step I really did a video capturing, because that really helps that we don't miss out even a small thing which would really cause a huge impact on the entire process flow. And we need to be very mindful about the volume and the time. Especially the most important thing is the processing time. And also, if there are any dependencies or the prerequisites for each and every task, in case if they say, hey, someone has to approve on a particular point, only then they can really do it, and then the whole the automation gets into a challenge. So I think the in fact, if you really see in this, the first data gathering itself, the output is the process map. So unless you have the signed off a process map, you cannot even get into the development part of it. And then of course the process definition document, which is very important. And again, you need to have the automation roadmap very clearly. You should have all the data collected. You should have gone through the videos. You should have the process map already reviewed. Then the development of the what really happens. And in fact, most important thing is the exception handling. Because if you especially if you're going for unattended kind of a thing, if you do not handle the exceptions, you're really going to have a problem, because you just come back and next day morning assuming that everything is working well, and for some reason if it failed, it got stuck somewhere, then it's going to be a huge chaos, because they have to really get the trust that how it's going to really replace a human being there, and making sure that the business happens. So then the next step is of course the testing and UAT and the deployment, how we did. It's a typical SDLC kind of a thing. And so what we really did is we clearly ensured that all our processes are rule based. So it's where I said when they explained why the case entry failed, because case entry also expected additional attachment of some supporting documents, also capturing of the real impression that we received from the dental office. So they are supposed to take a photo of that impression and attach with the case management. The moment that taking a picture and attaching become a prerequisite, then challenge it become a challenge. Second thing was when we start receiving the cases, it is as good as people are submitting the cases on the cloud or on a different sources. Then what happens, especially when we thought of doing for an attended thing, what happened, you have 10 cases. So you start an engine and then it does 10 cases. Then another 5 cases come in. Then someone has to sit and then generate a spreadsheet and give it to the system, and then it would do. So what we really understood is if you are getting a quantity of work, repetitive tasks in a volume, then you are trying to automate, then it makes more sense. Like as I said, for the insurance, invoicing and label printing, because we get at least 150 cases per day to even 1,000 cases per day, but we get it in one lot, once as a complete lot, then the automation really works very well. But if you're going to continue to get 1 or 2 cases consistently, then automation was really not helpful. Whereas you're putting a person, and as and when the case comes in, for him or her to enter the case in the system was more meaningful and faster rather than running an RPA thing. So unless it is a repetitive and quantity is really reasonably good enough, the automation really doesn't make sense. So when we're trying to see the case creation manually was maybe 5 minutes or 2.5 minutes, whereas the automation was an average of 100 cases was 1.5 minutes. But when we're trying to do a batch of 5 cases and 3 cases, it was too much of time. So we have to really give up there. In fact, after spending a lot of time. So the most important thing is exception should be very less, and it should be rule based, and there should be readable input. If the doctor is signing and writing in and handwritten stuff, etc., then you're going to be really having a problem. And of course, it's the high volume as a prerequisite. So this all the 4 points, if you really read in the first line, it clearly says why we failed to do a case submission automation whereas why we were successful on the other process automations. And of course, we had all the documentation in place. We created the environment, and we created the kind of a proper, also we had the SMEs with subject matter expertise to really assist the developers to really do that. And of course, we clearly gave all this other information. We had this sandbox environment readily available. So that's how we created the environment to go live. It's just going to take 2-3 minutes, guys, just to see how it's again a sample one, how a typical case entry, when initially we did, how it worked. So it's a lab track is basically it's a lab management system. It's a dental lab management system. So it automatically creates a case, just restricts the creating a new case. So basically this is the data that it's reading from the prescription a doctor sent, what product we need to create and what are the enclosures for the product, which tooth the doctor really wants us to really fix it, and what are the additional documentation information the doctor asked. Is there any specific preference the doctor is asking? And in case doctor says that, hey, I want you guys to add this material on top of the tooth, and also doctor says that I want a different shade for this patient. So then the case gets created, the case number comes in. But what it happened was, though the case got created, for us the challenge was post creation. There were like a lot of steps that we had to do, and which there were a lot of manual activities, like in terms of printing the RIs and then ensuring that the capturing of the impression photos. Also, like if the doctor says this product, not necessarily the doctor says this product, but then product may be mapped different in the system, etc. So some of the assumptions and manual interventions created a problem for the case submission, whereas all other process works completely, very well with us. And in fact, just to know, like, during the COVID, one day we were not able to really run the RPA. Then all the labs really started raising a voice. Then only we realized how effectively the system works, because only when a system stops working, then you will know, like, people are really using it. So it's completely in use and people are very, very comfortable with that. So this is the typical case study that I just wanted to share with all of you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take.
Thank you, Niranjan. That was a very insightful presentation. So the first question is from Abhinav only. He's asking, does RPA ROI works in India where labor cost is already low?
Definitely yes. Even I think it's the most important thing is it's not always the cost. It's the value of the investment. I think people moved away from the return on investment, and they moved into value of the investment nowadays, right? So as long as they're able to show the value, just to give a simple use case in the hospital industry, right? If, for example, like the ICD coding for the patients, we are supposed to enter the ICD coding for all the patients, right, in the medical record system, and most of the doctors are too busy, or maybe some of the doctors are not very well equipped with ICD coding. For every disease, there's a ICD is the international coding for the diagnosis, right? And a lot of hospitals employ medical records professionals to work in the night shift to ensure that they take all the 3,000 cases in a day, patients records, and then they enter it. More than the employees availability or medical professionals availability, the accuracy of the data and ensuring that every data happens, it's a huge challenge. And I'm saying RPA can do wonderful stuff there, and most of the hospitals will have very, very accurate records, and it will be quite useful for the insurance and even for the patient safety. So there, more than the cost, I would say the value that it brings is amazing.
Okay, right. So, Niranjan, so when you were saying, when you showed all those use cases, like you demonstrated one use case and everything. So I was just thinking, so keeping especially this pandemic situation right now in mind, that when cases, the COVID cases are rising so high and the hospital workers are very low. So what kind of use cases can you think of right now, which will be really helpful for the hospitals who are actually treating these COVID patients in terms of efficiency and everything?
See, even if you're talking about the printing of the reports, right? So there are a lot of places where you have the manual interventions required. For example, like all the lab reports getting printed. So one of the diagnostic center that I'm also on the board. If you really look, I mean, from the IT advisory board, where like most of the even the staff got infected recently. Even including the head of IT and all. So easily, like the RPA could have done wonderful stuff there. In the moment they collect the samples of the patients, and all the lab reports could have been automatically processed from the system, and it comes to a particular place. So we could have easily automated using RPA, pulled all the reports, publish them into portals, and even print the reports and keep it ready, so that just instead of like three people trying to process the lab reporting activity, you could have dealt with just one person, right? So minimum, instead of having multiple people in the same counter, you could have really reduced to one or two. So it's just a simple use case I'm saying. And even the appointment system part of it, like you are the moment the multiple appointments are coming in, you want to really generate the appointment, you want to generate the tokens. The token generation system itself, it's a huge activity. A lot of hospitals engage people. And if you go to the billing department, you won't believe, like every day when the patient is getting discharged, the billing process, it's a huge task. And there are a lot of people sitting there and consolidating and doing the billing. So it's very, very simple for a system to really go see how much of pending in the pharmacy or the in different process, and generate the kind of report and print all the bills for the patient on at every counter. For example, there are multiple nursing counters in the hospital. You can actually print it on the individual corresponding nursing counter itself, and avoid people moving from one place to the other place. So non-COVID ward people, like administrative team, you can prevent them getting into COVID wards, for example. So all those things can really do it. When they prescribe a pharmacy, and automatically, like selecting the right thing and printing the RX in the pharmacy, you can easily do that. So a lot of very, very meaningful use cases we can think through.
Right. Thank you. So Saurav has the next question. He wants to he's asking about, like, he wants to know about the working model of RPA projects. Is it agile, or is it waterfall, or is it something else?
No, I think there is no one standard way of doing it. It's again, it depends on how the relationship between the RPA team, the vendor, and the kind of what you call these business unit. But in my mind, it should be agile and it should be iterative. So it should be a combination of, like, because you can't just go do everything and come back and show in one day, right? You need to really like go through the process. It has to be iterative process. That's the best way, I would say, like for the process to happen. So you can't go on a waterfall method at all. So you need to go with understand the process, automate, show them, and so it's kind of a show and do kind of approach.
Okay, right. So Rajesh is asking now, are we using advanced skills for data analysis and accuracy along with RPA? If it is so, what are all additional skills we use along with RPA?
See, I think, like the one is definitely in the business analytics part. If you really look at it, I would say, like typically, let's talk about you are supposed to respond to queries of patients or something like that, or a customer queries, right? So one is typical, like again, maybe I need to relate to my industry, right? So when we do impression scanning for a patient, it's more like a wand, like, or what you call kind of maybe a toothbrush, maybe an electronic toothbrush, right? Keep that, assume that is the device that you have. So the doctor basically, like it takes 30 seconds to really run through that particular wand inside the patient mouth, and then he collects all the impressions, and then that gets converted into a digital file and gets transferred to the lab for manufacturing. What happens normally when the dentist, when he or she does that, and the patient is sitting in the dental chair, like and then the doctor assumes that the scans are sent, and then the patient leaves the practice, and after a day the lab checks that, oh, this scan is not complete and some of the information is missing for me to manufacture the product. Then they send the case back to the dentist. The dentist needs to kind of call the patient back into the dental chair, so the patient needs another appointment, travel, take a vehicle, and then park it, and then go through the whole process. Especially assuming that in COVID situation where you don't want to even go to a dentist now, because of like the social distancing issue, etc. You didn't want to go to the second time. So what an artificial intelligence technology can really do is it can really like in fact we already built that is it really checks the quality of the scan versus what you really want to which scan, how it should really look, and what kind of information it should collect for you to call that scan quality is good or bad or manageable. And if it's good, then the patient can leave. And if it's bad scan, within 15 to 20 minutes, if the technology can really trigger a mechanism and communicate to the dentist when the patient is still on the chair, then doctor can actually repeat the scan. So we call that as a chair side scan QC. So in this process, a combination of AI and combination of business intelligence or also natural NLP kind of a chatbot along with RPA can do a wonderful kind of service delivery. So we have done that. So we did the combination of all the three. So chatbot is patient or doctor can just even on a voice chat press the button and say, hey, I'm sending the patient Anand's case and something like that, and then actually you can create the case using a voice chat itself using chatbot. So we have done that, and then when it comes, the AI automatically works and checks whether this quality scan is good or bad. Then the RPA really like creates the ticketing system and sends a ticket directly to the dentist saying that the scan quality is bad, please repeat it, etc. So the entire process, if you really see, you can do it without any human intervention. So it's one of the best use case I would say where all multiple technologies can really work together.
Right. Very well said, Niranjan. So there's one question. As you said in your PPT that there is a huge licensing cost of these RPA vendors and everything. So I would like to ask, what is the awareness in the healthcare industry about the open source RPA and adaptation of the open source RPA in the healthcare industry?
See, industry wouldn't, honestly speaking, wouldn't have much information. See, if you talk about a hospital, like mostly they attend these kind of seminars or some vendors approach them. That's because when the new technology comes in, the head of the technology or head of the operations or the if we talk about hospital, head of the business medical services would never get that kind of an update on the what's happening outside the world. So they are mostly dependent on the vendors or technology partners, right? So there the biggest challenge I would say is the assuming that Anubhav runs an RPA company and he hires like 3 sales guys in his team. So the sales guys, sorry, sales guys should have the same level of understanding on the technology and what to say, what not to say, how to set the expectations, etc. Right? So most of the time, what happens when the people go and say this does this that, etc., and then they give some kind of ROI or VOI, and then the business starts it, then you come up with a license. For example, when we did like unattended license for like when we talked about 5 licenses, when we very quickly we were able to take a decision that that's not the right solution for us to go with. We could immediately see that we can put a human resource and we can really easily manage. Even in the US customer model, we were able to compensate with the human beings. Then India definitely we can really do that. So I think even if there are if you are using a open source open platform, how do we package that as a solution and give it is very important. So the industry always looks at the solution. They're not very much keen on what are the different technology components you are using it. But as an end solution, if somebody can take up the open source platform and package it and offer it as an end solution, that would be the most important thing. So industry only worries about the solution. They are not worried about the components behind or the technology behind that. So I would say if people can really take that as an initiative and come up with the industry solution, package that and give that in their flavor. How, automation of building using open source RPA. I'm saying that's the way you should really talk about it. Then people will be more than happy to adopt.
Yeah, of course, very well. So I would ask my audience to, if they want to ask your questions directly to Niranjan, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Hey Niranjan, Abhinav here.
Yes, Abhinav.
Hello. Niranjan, thank you for this wonderful session. You really, took a topic that is a bit of more complicated and explained to all of us in a very, very simple terms. It was, even as a RP professional, it was very refreshing to see how simply you explained in a very beautiful manner. So thank you for that, and really, really thank you. Guys, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask.
So when people don't have questions, either they understood everything or they didn't understand anything. So I'm not sure how do we take it, but
No, I don't think so. But I think, I mean, it was very, very clear. Even for me, like being a RP professional, also the view of it was very unique. Uh, so that was definitely, sir. But I think some of our audience are also facing some connectivity issues. I can see them joining and getting disconnected.
okay,
Uh,
okay.
all right. Uh, uh, all right, guys. We are almost out of time. We have like 3, 4 more minutes. If you want to ask any questions, please go ahead and ask. Uh, thanks, guys.
By any chance, are they sending me chat? No.
Type in and Anand is taking questions on their behalf. That is what we keep in format.
Okay, okay.
So otherwise, no. What happens is, oh, okay. So Rajesh, I think wants to know how you can contact Niranjan. Niranjan, it's okay if is it okay if you can probably give out your email ID or something like that,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
probably
yeah.
link.
Yeah, you can share my contact details. I'm there in the LinkedIn anyhow. You can search for Niranjan Ramakrishnan. You get me very quickly in the LinkedIn.
Sure.
Thank you, guys. Not a problem. You can always reach me. So not necessarily we need to limit our questions during this session. You can always reach out. I'm more than happy to support. So thank you
All
all.
right, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you so
Niranjan.
much. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, have a good night, Niranjan. Bye bye.
So guys, so we are concluding this meeting here. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. I would like to thank both of my speakers and my team, Soumya, Ravi, Sagar, and if I'm posting a link in the chat window, please provide your feedback. And any one of you wants to attend our future events or want to speak in our events or sponsor the event, please feel free to do it. I'm posting the links for them as well.
Thank you, Anand, and thank you. I really thank all the audience patiently, with us for this whole 2.5 hours. And I guess we shot up a little bit ahead of time, but that's all right. I think that's the worth the price to pay for, listening to somebody like Niranjan.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
Niranjan's email ID. Hold on. Okay, I got it. Yes, yeah. Uh, all right, guys. So another 1 or 2 minutes, this session will be live, and then we'll be closing it. Uh, Rajesh, hold on. If you are already there, just give me a sec. I will see Niranjan's email ID and I'll give it to you. So this is Niranjan's email ID. You are still there. Oh, hold on. Just want to Vivek. Yeah, this is Niranjan's email ID. If you want to get in touch with him, you can mail him. As I've seen, he's a very open person and he'll be happy to interact.
He's also available in LinkedIn, so you can always reach out to him through LinkedIn. So his name is Niranjan Ramakrishnan. You can just search him in LinkedIn as well.
So hold on, guys. Hold on one more minute. This is his LinkedIn profile. Just click if you want to. You will go direct. Alright, guys. Like the session, please do provide the feedback and share the link with you. And like I said, and just share that feedback link once more if you want to. All right. Thank you, guys. We conclude this session now.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being patient and thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Have a good night.